Hey guys, it's been a minute. Welcome. Welcome to this episode. You're going to love this episode because when we started this, it was all for you, filmmakers, actors, everybody in the business who wants to know what's going on now, not what was happening 5 years ago before COVID and the strike. Jeez. And I know that I saw your eyes go, fuck, yeah. Things have changed. Oh, yeah. So coming back with this is what I'm super excited about because not only are we here in Miami, but I have a really cool slice of Miami, but we're going to take you outside of Miami. We're going to talk about film festivals. We're going to talk about directors. We're going to talk about a lot that's actually happening right now. So much so that I was at a kickoff party for a film festival here in Miami where you were at, and yep. I'm sure you, and this is how small of a world it is. I was hanging out with Jokes, who you're going to get to know. And I'm talking to somebody, and I'm like, yeah, tomorrow. Oh, I'm talking to Bobby. And I go, hey, I've got Jokes is going to come out, and we're going to do this podcast. And somebody next to me goes, Jokes? And looks at me like, Jokes? How do you know Jokes? I'm like, actually, he's coming on my podcast. We're blah, blah, blah. And here's how small. She's like, tell him Susan, who just bought the movie that you have in the festival. So how small of a world is that?
Oh, that's amazing.
And I have a photo of her.
Oh, that's awesome.
From last night.
Oh, that must be Susan from Breaking Glass Films.
Yeah. She literally goes, you got to take a picture so he now knows what I look like.
Oh, cool. That's awesome.
So when I tell you all it's that small of a community down here in Miami, really is it that small of a community?
It's that small.
Yeah. And that being said, and so obviously I have Jokes. I'm going to let him walk him in because right now I found out he has 5 films in the festival. Is that correct?
Do I? I'm not sure.
See, I rest my case. That's my research I do here.
I'm not sure.
About 5 in ours as well.
Yeah, and then I was going to say.
Oh well, yeah, I definitely have in that festival. Yeah,
and now he's got Angelo here who has a podcast that's going around called Miami Made in Miami. That's amazing, and it's the history of Miami. It's super cool. You guys are going to be tuning into that. We'll be linking to that, but. Angelo has also started a festival, which is super cool. So we're going to cover a lot of great shit. I'm so glad you're here. And by the way, thank you guys so much. I really appreciate you guys coming.
A cool link between me and Jokes is not only our friendship for, over
20 plus.
Yeah. But we have a documentary together, too, called Nightlife Empire. Yeah, docuseries, yeah.
Which, go ahead, tell people a little bit about it.
You want me to tell?
Sure, go ahead.
Well, Nightlife Empire basically is we did a deep dive study about the history of nightlife in Miami and kind of the impetus for it and how it started was, if you go to like a New York and you want to do the research and you want to know about the history of Wall Street, you could find 20, 30 documentaries about that. If you go to LA and you want to know the history of Hollywood, you can find 20, 30 documentaries about that. Nobody really, nightlife has been like the number one industry in South Florida for at least 50 years. You know what I mean? So it's like, how come that industry, nobody knows anything about the history of it? Nobody knows who were the movers, the shakers, the guys who like really made things happen. And we just felt that, that needed to be documented. And I understand why it wasn't documented because Miami's kind of a young city and kind of like, Miami's always about the new.
Right.
And so like, the all these people in a sense, at least into the mainstream, get forgotten. But people who are in the world, they never forget. They know those guys. Those are the people we just felt like they needed the recognition. And there's so many stories. There's just so many stories.
I'm sure at least I heard him chuckle. Yeah. I've had the pleasure of working on some of the podcasts he's been filming, and some of the stories. I'm like, dude, you're getting canceled, and it hasn't aired. I'm like, it hasn't even aired. Nobody even knows about it, and you're canceled.
The greatest thing is they open up to us, not only in the podcast, but me and Jokes filming. I kid you not. I mean, Jokes would even look at me like, do we keep recording? And I'll look at them and they'll say, yeah, it's fine. I think we've only had one person who called us back, a buddy of mine, and I already knew. And it was nothing bad. It was because he was going to do a deal with Formula One, and he had said something about Formula One. And so I called Jokes and I was like, hey, Emmy says don't put that part. And he's like, yeah, I knew. Yeah. We already knew. But he ended up getting the deal with Formula One. So that was the only thing he wanted to kind of cut back on. But everybody else has opened up like stories that are just untold stories about Miami from some of the leaders, the key pioneers, the trendsetters, the folks who made the city. And really it tells the story from the aspect, like he said, of nightlife because everything in Miami revolves around the hospitality, entertainment, nightlife industry. And these folks have changed the landscape of Miami, and it's become the number one city, right, in that regard. So
I would say it's the number one city, not just in the U.S., but in the world. I mean, I was in Tokyo recently. Everybody, I'm in L.A. a lot, as you are as well. Oh, we got to keep our logo up there. And what's really wild that I'm noticing is that, Miami, like you said, it had a. Oh,
we're here.
Music? No.
That's the videos.
Oh, well, we got to keep. Yeah, roll some. You can roll some stuff.
Roll it.
Yeah, let's go. It's always good to have.
We
some
have our
background.
documentary there too. He can roll.
Yeah, just roll through shit. People are gonna. Then they can. They can find this stuff online. Some.
I mean, some. A lot of stuff is there's tons of stuff on Tubi and Amazons and Netflix and all that stuff.
We'll put a bunch of the links so people can check it all out.
Yeah, there's stuff all over the place, but a lot of stuff is stuff I don't, either I don't own it anymore.
Right, which is good. I want to get in a kind of festival, all that journey, but I just kind of wanted to hit the Miami thing because it's like I feel, and maybe actually I'd love both your opinions on this. So I was talking to somebody last night in the distribution game, big distributor in the film world, and we were talking about just how much older guy, and he was like, everything has changed. Even him.
Absolutely.
And he's two of the guys who are junior for him were at a festival over in Europe. I won't mention which one. And usually comes back with deals and sign. And he's like, it's all changed. And I've been living in the social media world, in the new digital world for a while. So what I've seen now is over 5 years, right? We'll call it COVID, the strike, the budgets, Disney stock, all the different stuff. Forget all the political angles and all that. I mean, remove that shit. I'm talking about just the actual industry itself. And I'm like, I feel like we're in this weird, I call it a barbell effect. I mean, the middle's getting squeezed. Yeah. So you got people who are going to go do Dune for unlimited budget and avatars, which those are going to happen.
Absolutely.
But you're going to get a lot more creative, new, because people are not going into it. I'm not going to say going into it make the money, but they have a passion and they want to create content.
Yeah.
And I think we're going to have a new renaissance. I don't know. And I'd love your thoughts. Go ahead.
Well, two things I'll say about that. One is, first, on the aspect of the industry itself, it's lost about 40% of the workforce and jobs, and people in the industry are not getting the work they used to get. That's all has to do with the state and different things taking place there. The other thing is, we just saw the Oscars, and independent films are on top right now. And they're being valued, they're being showcased, and they're being awarded. And I think that's the level or the move we're seeing in Hollywood that's going to turn the page, not only for the future, but for all these filmmakers that can now tell a story, like Anora, right? That's the same guy who did the Florida Project, right?
Yeah.
Sean Baker.
Yeah.
Brilliant. I watched it the other night, and
all his films are brilliant, by the way.
And I'm like, wow, right? It's such a simple story that we all know 1,000 stories just like it, right? And then we can tell. But here they went, they took the shot, they took the risk, and they put it out there, and it was brilliant. And all the actors are pretty much unknown, most of them, right? They've done some work, but not a lot, not to the point where they're in the limelight. But brilliant what he did with the writing, with the acting, with the storyline, everything. I was engaged the whole story. I was like, wow. And I go, this is it. This is what we need.
The future of, yeah.
Well, I mean, speaking of what you were saying about the creativity, the thing is that when you remove some of that extra money, let's say, from the system, what you get are the diehards that stay. And they stay consistent. And then, the storytelling, the quality, in a sense, almost gets better because you remove all the fly-by-nights. Because there's nothing to fly by night anymore.
Right.
There's no let me just make this crappy little movie and make a quick profit. If there's no profit, that's not going to happen. So in a good way, it kind of removes the people who are in just looking for their lucky shot, in a sense, as opposed to people who are committed to it and they're going to do it no matter what.
Yeah.
I mean, the unfortunate side of it just becomes way harder to raise money. You know what I mean? Or you need to have something that's just such a no-brainer, which is kind of hard to create a no-brainer when you're doing smaller, more intimate stories.
Right.
Because people feel that's anybody can do that. It's you know, and don't get me wrong, there's always still a part of film and that entertainment part that's about the spectacle. And spectacle costs money.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
You know what I mean? Spectacle just costs money no matter what. You know what I mean? If it doesn't cost money, like it's not really spectacle.
I get it.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, I would. You know, it's interesting since you said spectacle in that. I want to get your thoughts on, of course, what everybody's talking about AI. But before I preface that by saying, I'm looking at AI, and obviously, it's an incredible tool when you're doing you want a second opinion on medical stuff, or you want to look at spreadsheets and you're like, hey, analyze this. But my question is, do we really need AI in art? And I'm going to say, I'm noticing yes, it's cool. And now like more than 50% of the internet is all AI BS that's generated. The reality is I think we're going to get to that point where people are like somebody like myself, I don't want to use AI. I have zero interest. I'd rather cobble it together and be like, hey, I made this, as opposed to I typed some keys in a computer and a computer generated it. I mean, maybe I'll change in the future. Right. That doesn't mean I don't use AI for business plans and different stuff. So as a filmmaker and some guys in the creative space, what are your thoughts on, not its just capabilities, but the undertone?
Right.
Because there's that movie that it's killing me. They just did it, big movie, and he got a backlash in it just because he wanted to change the actor's voice. Right. Do you know what I wish I remember the name.
Yeah, I remember hearing that, but I'm not.
Yeah. And it got a lot of hate, and it was only because he changed the voice a little bit.
Yep.
See, I'm on the fence about AI a bit, because here's the thing: as a writer, AI is a godsend, because essentially it will turn a novelist into a filmmaker. So, and obviously you have to learn how to use that tool as well. You know what I mean? So there's a part of me that goes, wow, that's really interesting, because now somebody who just has an imagination and that has writing skills and prompting skills, because that's a whole different skill set.
Right, yeah.
Is learning how to prompt their material, can actually create a visual representation of what they're doing at a very minimal cost.
Right.
So there's a part of me that goes, as a filmmaker, well, that's actually kind of interesting to do, because when you got a good story, it kind of translates everywhere, because like a couple years back, everybody was talking about transmedia. You know what I mean? Where it's like you got a story and it can work as a podcast, it can work as a radio show, it can work as a TV series, it can work as a movie.
Right.
Like you just have a great story, it can work on all these different mediums. So what's kind of interesting with the AI thing, in my, at least something that I think about and I'm kind of like mentally debating, is like, you can do like a first draft of stuff and see if it actually warrants to be brought before you go and spend a bunch of money getting a star or bothering a bunch of other people, and essentially, you know what I mean? Before you like start gathering people up and start burning money, you burn a couple bucks on AI, because you are gonna have to spend money on AI as well.
Oh
yeah,
you know
I mean, it's not like it's not like they give it to you like,
oh no,
you still gotta spend credits or whatever it is
to make it work. I'm spending a few $100 a month.
Absolutely, yeah. You have to spend some money there, but still, to spend a few $100 to really see if something works, kind of worth it. And also, you can maybe create somebody who's not connected, who's in the middle of Delaware or something, that's like, oh, I want to create this thing, can maybe create something that blows everybody's mind, and since they're not connected, can like really show what it is that they want. Now, the only part that I don't like about it, where I'm on the fence, is that, is it the machine creating it in a sense?
Right.
And is it creating it from other people's stuff? Like, how does that work? I don't really know the background of all that stuff. Is it like old school sampling? Like,
right. I know. Yeah.
Like, I don't know how that works. But like I said, I do see the value in it. And I do see where, because at the end of the day, what writer wouldn't wish? People don't want to read books.
Right.
So if you're a writer, wouldn't you want to see, like, you want people to experience your material? And that to me is a way where like the visual medium can kind of take over the literary world to a certain extent. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Or at least for people who, it's like the way you hear an audiobook now.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's like a couple, 25 years ago. I don't know. I mean, maybe it's longer than that, but a while back, an audiobook was like a special thing.
Right.
Like,
Oh, yeah.
oh, the audiobook, I can listen to it. I don't have to actually hold the book and read it.
Yeah.
But you know, people nowadays maybe get a visual of the book. You know what I mean? And so I do see like there's something interesting there. And like I said, it's a tool. So like, because I've played around with AI, and I'm like, this isn't as easy as everybody thinks. You know what I mean? Like,
No. Yeah, it takes a minute.
yeah, it's just another tool to work.
Get my arm
Yeah, and it goes forming. The more you use it, it goes forming your mind into it. So it starts taking your thought process, your wording, your writing, and it starts creating.
Yeah, it learns you.
It
learns you.
It learns you. So that's the interesting part. I agree with Jokes, everything he said, and I think the writing part is one of the good parts of it. I was at an event last night where they had the top AI girls,
Right.
which is a great industry where they're making tons of money just creating these girls. And a lot of these girls, we think, oh, it's AI girl. No, that's an actual girl, but it's an AI version of her.
Right.
So I saw one last night for the first time. I always thought it was something that they just created on AI, and it's not a real girl. No. And I'm pretty sure they can do that. But last night I met a girl. She's from Channel Univision, one of these Latin channels, Telemundo. And she's a hostess on one of the shows, and she has her own AI. So she put it up on the screen, and we're all watching, and we're looking at her, and we're going, oh, that's her. It ends, and she goes, well, that's my AI.
Right.
It wasn't her. And we were like, whoa. Everybody was like, wow.
Like, what the fuck? Yeah,
Yeah.
What the hell?
So
Yeah.
there's some cool things there for that point, and that gets monetized really well. They make a fortune off those AI girls. And imagine all the companies that would hire them to do marketing, ads, product placement, et cetera, et cetera. So there's a lot of money there. Film-wise, I think it'll be good for, and I think it's so early. It's so early in AI discovery. We don't know what's there.
Right.
We don't know what are the capabilities. And it's going to take somebody very creative, like he said, to come up with something that's just going to blow everybody away. And I think that's what's going to change that whole AI concept is when someone says, you know what, I got this idea. And they put it out there and everybody's like, wow, that's cool, you know? And I think that's what's going to happen. Overall, I think AI in itself, it's a story that can be told too as a film, right? The discovery of it, playing around with it, the guys behind it, the actual, software or,
Right.
Whatever it is, whatever we want to call it. But that, I think, are the points at this point in the juncture because it's so new.
Yeah.
You know?
Interesting. No, I agree.
Yeah,
It's good.
and no matter what, I think at least for my lifetime, there'll always be a want, a desire to be like, I want to see the real thing. I want to see people really doing it, and people being on set, even if it becomes something that's like, oh, that's just even more special when people are actually there.
Right.
It's like almost like shooting on film nowadays.
Right.
You know what I mean? People shoot on film, they do it because there's an aesthetic to it.
Yeah. It's a feeling.
Right. There's a feeling, there's a certain magic to when chemical emulsion, it gets affected by light.
I agree.
There's a certain magic to it and people still use it. Is it the best format? That's an opinion thing. You know what I
Exactly.
mean? It's about the feeling you want to create. You know what I mean? And that's the real art of it is learning, at least as far as I'm concerned with film, the art of it is how do you translate a feeling so that people can absorb that feeling and go, oh, wow, I just went through this journey and I went through this whole range of emotions on watching this product or whatever, this movie or whatever it is, TV show or whatever it is. I just went through all these range of emotions and I was right there with them. Right. So like, to me, it's like whatever tool you can use to create some kind of connection of empathy with the audience,
Right.
you use it.
Yep.
You know what I mean? Whether it's, and I wouldn't, and it's already happening already where, you're just using AI to like fill in the blanks here and there.
You're making me look something up. I want to say it right. I want to say it's the Koshavlo, the effect. It's when you put what you're talking about, because I was just thinking, you made me think about that, and it took me back to David Lynch. And I'm so bummed because I wanted to go see him. He just passed away.
Yeah, I know.
I'm so disappointed. That's, you got to do it when you can. And so God rest his soul, but I remember some of his incredible movies, and he was an artist that got into filmmaking, and he put these random shots in that he stole from Hitchcock's idea. That when I was looking up, Coach, somebody will correct me. I should know this, filmmaker, right? But anyway, but the reason I bring that up is that's where I'm wondering where AI, like there may be that, like you said, you go, okay, I want Angelo in this scene. I want Jokes in this scene. I write it. It shows it to me. But I still think once I bring you guys here, there's still going to be something the je ne sais quoi, right? That texture and how we weave it as a human in our story. So I agree. I think AI is without a doubt going to cut budgets, be a great first draft, is going to be the girl who stands up in front of the board and you hire. But I still think that when it comes to that real performance, it's like lip syncing, right? You know what I mean? So I think that there's going to be, so I'm very bullish on it, that I think it's going to allow a lot of people that have an incredible idea who are not writers. I would say writing's probably my weakest skill set, as far as filming and directing and all that. But so people who,
but maybe prompting isn't.
There you go. No, absolutely.
You know what I mean?
I'm a prompting
and that's what I'm saying. Like, there's a difference in same thing as even as a director. Like sometimes there's certain writing that I do that's like very director based. And what makes it good director writing is that it's very visual and explains everything in a manner that's very concise and precise. And then there's like the writing that's more, poetic and more, more for the aesthetics of the actual literary word. And, and it has like, different meanings and whatnot. And to me, that's the stuff that has that more human touch or the artist's touch to it, as opposed to, the other stuff that's a little more technical or meant for the creators and the collaborators versus for the audience.
Yeah.
I agree.
There was another film, by the way, in the Oscars, Emilia Perez.
There you go.
Did you guys hear that story in its complete?
No, I haven't. I don't know the story behind it.
So it's a drug cartel guy who they begin to go chase, right, the DEA, and he transforms into a transvestite. But then he loses touch with his wife and his kids, and he wants to communicate with them again. So he begins to friend this one connection friend that they have between them, which is played by Zoe Saldana, who I think she won. Yeah, she won the Oscar.
She won the Oscar, yeah.
And I'm reading the whole story, and I'm going, wow. And that's just a bit of it. There's more complications in that and twists and things in that story. But that's another independent film that I thought was like, wow, and it was up there.
Yeah. There's a lot of great, in A24's killing it with all these early ones. And now I can do my own fact checking and correction. I feel like this is the mini Joe Rogan where I have to do my own fact checking and correction. What's this guy's name?
Jamie. There's no Jamie.
I'm substituting as Jamie right now. Yes. In the 1920s, a Russian filmmaker, Lev Kuleshov. You want to try and pronounce
Leave.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Kuleshov.
Thank you. See, that's better. And I told you writing is in my. But anyway,
You're Russian.
He was the one that. Here you go. He's the one that came up with the concept of what we were talking with Lynch and the scene that comes before and what it does in our brain and all this kind of stuff.
Absolutely, yeah.
So I think from a linear standpoint, not going back to it, you're not going to get a Perez out of AI, out of like
and
not yet. Maybe
correct. Yeah, or, maybe not yet, but maybe you can or. Like I said, just in a time not too far from now, if that's one of those stories that's more of a transmedia story, because I do believe personally that like you can make a story that is only for film.
Right.
You know what I mean? It's only to be filmed. It's only to be that.
Yep.
You know what I mean? But then there's other stories that like you can create a TV show out of, and you could do this, and you could spin it off, and there's just depth and complexity. Some of them, there's some stories that all that needs to be done is that one film, and that's all it needs to be.
Right.
And that's okay, and that's great. That's phenomenal. There's some stories that have that ability to like go into all the layers and become a bigger tapestry. And in that case, that's where I'm saying like, hey, maybe to start something that's that deep, you can go with AI and get it, or at the same time, it just, the only sad thing I see about AI is just it really takes us off sets. And that collaboration
that's what I missed
of being on set is a special magic that is
authentic.
Super important.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, so like, collaborating with the machine isn't as fun or as special, I think,
With humans.
as collaborating with humans, because everybody has their own feelings, emotions, and things.
Reactions.
Their own reactions and things that they feel at that moment. that, needs to be used.
Well, it's funny you say that. That's exactly so. Going back to Rogan, since I just referenced him, how he had to get Trump literally went down on his podcast, and he's like, "No, we're coming here, we're doing it." And it's the same thing when I listen to him talk about the reasoning behind it. It's the same thing why I love having people here, because I've had some guys from LA who are dying and I'm like, no, I'm not going to zoom in. I just feel that it's not like having a cigar with you guys or whatever, sitting
intimate.
Here. It just, and even the headphones to the point where it's like, we're locked in and it's like, it's just, there's something about that energy. And I think you could script some stuff, you could put it together, but as a filmmaker, and I don't know, maybe maybe AI will get to that point soon. Who knows? I'm scared, but
it's a possibility, but I don't think it'll be complete ever, because the human creates the AI, right?
Just that energy, right?
And the human is always the most unique aspect of life. The way, everything, all the emotions, the thinking, the reactions, you just can't duplicate it no matter what. Even when you see them use it, you could see, if you stare long enough at one of these girls on Instagram,
it's still off. Yeah, there's
yeah. 7 fingers, whatever.
No, but there's always still like little, there's like little tells.
There is.
There's little tells. Yeah, you could tell, and even the way like almost like radiates back to you. Because I was looking at some stuff that I was like, oh, it looked real, but then I really, really look at it, and I'm like, yeah, there's something artificial here, and you can feel it. You know what I mean?
Right. That's what I mean.
Yeah, you can definitely feel it.
Interesting. Well, I do want to circle back to you on that, because you just said something really good. But when they're talking about trans in the media, the crossing all the genres or all the distribution, however we want to say it. Yeah. But what I think is interesting is, we kicked off talking about film festivals, and there's a big one coming up in Miami, and yours that you're going to want to talk about. But what, in your mind, what goes into obviously a lot of people talk about, hey, I don't have the money to make my movie, so I'm going to do a short. And then if my short gets liked, I'm going to turn it into a feature. And then it becomes a sequel, et cetera, et cetera. But the reality, or it's a show. What, give us a little bit of what you look at when you're filming something, or you're like, yeah, this is a great short, or where's the delineation for you these days, whether it's feature, project, what do you look at?
Well, I would say this. In today's marketplace, if it's not a project that's already funded from the beginning, you're probably going to need to make a short film or some kind of test film to like get it made. Like, I don't think, at least in my experience, if I don't end up making a short film for it or some kind of test film for it, like, it's probably not going to get made. That's really the differentiator between something getting financed or not. Why? Because people got to see it to believe it. And they got to know, okay, this is in a sense what I'm getting. And in a way, you show your value if it hasn't been proven yet. You show your value of what you bring when you have no money. Because you can make something for, no or low money. I would say low because everything costs money. I was going to say, everything costs money. But when I mean low is like, but what's obtainable or
under $5-10
Right, exactly. You know, what you're willing to invest into it yourself. Making that original proof of concept, that thing, it's the prototype, and you gotta have it. Even if you've proven yourself to a certain extent, if it's an idea that's the more breakthrough, the more original it is, the more you're gonna have to create some kind of proof of concept for it. At least in my case, I always had to create a proof of concept for everything. At the same time, like for instance, with the projects that I have going to Miami Film Festival right now, that movie was a pilot that originally was shot as a pilot.
Okay.
And then that pilot
pilot for a show.
A pilot for a TV series.
Yeah.
Correct. Which, and a Bible was created and the whole thing was done as far as shopping it as a TV show. But then COVID happened.
Okay.
And when COVID happened, the whole TV landscape changed.
Oh, yeah.
It wasn't anymore of like, if you have the IP, you have the power. Now it was the people who had the deals had the power. Because there was no deals to new people because no companies wanted to take risk on somebody. It wasn't going to be the old Game of Thrones, let them shoot 5 pilots for it until we get it right. because they got the rights and we want this. You know what I mean? So we're just gonna give them another shot at it because we got to get it right. Gone was that they didn't want to take any risks anymore like that, so they contracted other people, and where that left people with the IP was now you have to make a deal with a production company to partner up with them, and you're essentially gifting them half your IP.
Right.
You know, just to be able to like get past the gate. So in that respects, we had to pivot and say, okay, how do we turn this pilot now into a feature film so it can be released so that the special stuff that was there doesn't just sit on a shelf? Mm-hmm. Because the last thing you want to do in this day and age is have a project sit on a shelf. Like, what's the point of that? When you have like so many distribution angles and there's so many ways to get it to a public, like having a good product sit on a shelf is kind of a shame. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? That it's not, and definitely for anybody who's invested into it, that doesn't look great on their bottom line to not be able to recoup anything off of it.
Right. And a lot of when you say recoup, one of the things I want to throw out there is I always encourage everybody, to it's if you're not making content, if you're not doing stuff, even as an actor, like you look at, oh God, I always use this reference. I should come up with another one because there's a million of them out there, but I always use Good Will Hunting.
Right.
Yep.
And that was, they literally were trying to audition. They wrote this short, then boom, now look at it.
And that was almost like 30 years ago too.
And so that shows actors putting their money up
Oh,
to
absolutely.
make something. And so, then everybody's like, ew, it's pay to play. I'm like, you're getting exposure. You're proving you can do it. If you're a filmmaker, you're investing the money, so I think there's an ugly term with pay to play and maybe like the school of those acting modeling schools that charge everybody $1,000, those are all bullshit, right?
Changes.
Let's just,
The game changes.
I mean, well, then you just, it's showing you. So, and that's what I'm thinking. And that's why now, and that's why I built that up to kind of say, so what does today's film festival world mean? I know what it means to you. What is because you're about to start, you're kicking off a big
South Beach Film Festival. Yeah,
that's a big one, man.
First
South
ever.
Beach. So,
and
what are you looking for? What's it mean to people?
So coming from my background, I have two partners in there, Bobby and Diego, and we all had a similar vision, right? Which was to create a platform to then showcase all the artistic talent. A lot of talent out there doesn't get into these festivals. Miami Film Festival, for example, we know friends and probably a lot of friends that have entered really good films. And they just don't get chosen, right? So we came up with the idea of let's create a platform where we can really give these artists and these talented directors and filmmakers and so forth a platform, right? The second thing was to create something that hasn't been done before, which was create the category for digital content creators. We also added a Miami challenge where we're going to create a challenge to these digital content creators, which there's so many talented digital content creators. You know that background, that industry, you're part of it. That create some amazing skits and shorts and small little 3 minutes.
Millions and millions of views.
Yeah.
Public likes it.
I saw one last night of the top drone camera director, I guess.
Pilot, yeah.
Yeah, he's like the top guy in Miami. Yeah. I was just with him now at my friend's pizza place, Pucci's Pizza, Tommy Pooch.
Shout out.
And yeah, absolutely. And when he says, send me somebody that's really good. And I said, check out this kid. I was just with him last night. I've been working with him. His name is Matthew Gio. He's the top drone guy right now shooting all of Miami. Now he's going into other cities and other places. And he's getting called from all over the world. And he's been doing this for about 5 years. He's got phenomenal footage of, you just stay there staring. I remember last night I'm just staring at his shots and I'm going, wow. Like when there's something about a drone shot that just tells you so much about a city.
Mm-hmm. It's the God view.
Yeah. Establishing, right? That's it.
It's the God view. It's that view from up above.
Right,
that angle that you don't get as a human unless you're on
Superman.
I even got goosebumps. Look, and I'm watching his footage. I'm going, wow. And I'm thinking, man, nobody's really doing what he's doing. Like he's like taken to another level. And when he shoots Miami, and I see it, I'm like, that's Miami. Like, wow. And he's taken to another level, and he does these films for like 3 minutes, 4 minutes, little shorts. And just watching that short, you get lost. You're like, wow, this is like his eye, his ability to capture certain areas of Miami through that drone is insane. And then the weather too. or the skyline or the
Right.
sun setting or the smog, things like that nobody thinks about. He's phenomenal, great talent, and hopefully we'll have him on here one day.
Definitely.
He'll definitely be on the podcast. And I think that's something that's powerful that a lot of film festivals and film industry people are not kind of like paying attention to.
Right.
And there's so much talent. I've seen comedies, short skits, and digital content creators that are just brilliant. I'm like, wow, like that's cool. And some even tell like a small story of a girl walking a dog through downtown Miami, and there's her walk, just that journey of that walk with the dog, and all the things that happen in that walk. So I think that's something that a lot of people in the film industry haven't really looked on.
And that's interesting, especially in the comedy space, because
Yeah.
to take something that was meant for a digital platform, like when you're watching it on your phone, and to hit comedy, because now you're doing like more of like a one-on-one with comedy, but then you take comedy and put it now in the communal space, where comedy even thrives more, I believe.
Absolutely, I agree.
So it's kind of interesting to see how those, how it plays on both arenas. You know what I mean? So that I think is interesting. The one thing I do see that's interesting with the film festival space, because for a little while I think a lot of people were like with the proliferation of streaming and the YouTubes and all the different ways that you can put visual content in people's faces, especially with the phone. Like, what was the purpose of film festivals? And like what I do see is a big opportunity for film festivals is that they could be the ones who innovate that experience of going to the theaters.
Yep.
Because as we know, theaters are not
you
bringing people in,
walked me into this,
and the film festivals can really try to they can try things, and they can like experiment and figure out what's the best way to make that experience of going to the movies fun again, or just relevant in a sense of like feeling new and fresh.
I love it. I just have to say it because I look at like, we were talking the other night. Actually, Bobby, I think it was Bobby, because you just left. I just missed you by a few minutes at the party, and we were talking. What I was realizing is here in Miami we have the Wine and Food, we have Art Basel, we have Ultra, we have Formula
Fashion
One.
Week.
So people are coming here for events.
Number one.
Absolutely.
Why not turn film festival? Because before, film festivals for nerds like us, right?
Right.
But then now, if
Make
you
it a
could
cons.
make it a thing where people are like, I'm going there for I go to Sundance every year almost, just because the whole vibe. I'm hanging out with Sites, and if you made it more, I don't want to say commercialized, but a little more commercialized, where you don't have to be one of these film snobs, and it doesn't have to be about, the guy that spent 400 years rolling a cigar. You can make him a little more commercialized, than just talking about a cigar for 4 hours, where people are like, okay, you're great, like bring them up. And that's why I love when you told me what you're doing. You're going to have digital, it'll create environments.
We got the destination, the location.
Right.
Yeah.
We have something that had never been done before. The city, when we brought it up to their attention, they stayed quiet for a moment. They all looked at each other, and they looked at us, and they said, why didn't we think of it? And, obviously Miami has the Miami Film Festival, the Key West, the Fort Lauderdale, the Urban, the Latin, all these different festivals. But no one had done one there in that place, that city, South Beach, Miami Beach, right? And you have Art Basel, you have all these events, Formula One, Fashion Week, Miami Music Week. Nothing for the film, right? And no one tapped into that concept of, hey, let's make that our backdrop. This is the backdrop. This is like the most scenic city in the world.
South Beach.
Everybody wants to film here. Everybody wants to be here.
The thing is, I think with Miami, which has been kind of tough, is that when you go to a movie, you go and you put yourself inside of a dark room. But when you're in the city, it's like a big, like you want to be outside. You know what I mean? So that's what I'm saying, though. There is an opportunity there with the film festivals at this time, with any film festival for that matter, to like start to tweak the experience.
Yeah.
And to figure out what it is that's going to really draw people in.
Old school drive-ins.
Yeah, like
or whatever.
Yeah, we can have them on the sand.
Sand, put
Right.
a
Rooftop.
Yeah, there's
Last night we had one on the pool. Remember?
Yeah,
It
that's
was
right.
on
Yeah,
the
they
pool.
put exactly.
Yeah, and I know they do the rooftop thing over Miami Beach too with the movie. So yeah, there's a lot of different experiences that can be brought into the film festival stuff that can help, because there's always an opportunity to like figure out a way to make that experience just more special. And that's what people really care about. They care about having a special experience. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Like maybe it's not as special anymore to like go to the cinema, to the multiplex in the shopping plaza.
Right.
You know what I
Unless
mean?
there's yeah, it's changed. I mean, the numbers. Just look at the numbers.
Absolutely. You know what I mean?
And I was an avid movie. I mean, I
Me
was,
too.
I was-
Yeah, I was every Friday night at the movie theaters. You know what I mean? I remember. You know, like when I was a youngster, like going to a movie theater and walking up to the big board that's in front of the thing and like looking to see what I wanted to see.
Oh,
Not
yeah.
even. I just went there to go to the theater. You know what I mean?
still love. I used to go every week until not too long ago with my kids for years, like 10, 15, 20 years. And we would not just watch one film. We'd schedule it so we would know the 2
Catch
hours,
the
the 2 hours,
next,
and
the
catch
next-
the next,
yeah.
move over to another theater. But look, check this out. Let me add this in here. Digital content creation market is at a large and rapidly growing industry, with a global market size projected to reach $172 billion by
Think about
2032.
Yeah.
It is estimated that there are roughly 50 million content creators worldwide, including both part-time and full-time workers, and the creator economy is worth about 250 billion. So I think we're talking about bringing people back to the theater. Content creators going to be
Right.
part of that.
Absolutely.
That's where that
Right, because
vision came
everybody's
to me.
sitting here like this on their phone.
Right.
If you could give them a reason to say, hey, we're going to give you, instead of just doom scrolling, as we call it, and all that,
Yeah.
hey, go out for a few hours. We understand that you may not want to watch a 2-hour movie.
Right.
So we'll schedule, like, I think
A
if
bunch of
like a
shorts.
bunch of cool, like,
Yeah.
Yep.
I'm saying there's got to be a way to you know, because no matter what, the communal experience of sitting down with a bunch of people in a room where you're not changing the channel and all that. You know what I mean? There's something about that experience that is unique and that is special.
yeah.
And like, you know, and it's up to us, the people who are part of this industry, to cater to our audience and our people, the people who actually watch our stuff and we want to reach to. We gotta figure out how to deliver it to them.
Facilitate it.
Right.
Yeah, how to facilitate that need in not just, you know, push a button and you go watch it on Tubi or this and that, which is great. Don't get me wrong. You want those things too. But, you know,
Right.
the more we innovate the experience, the more special that experience becomes.
Absolutely.
Yep.
Absolutely. And that's part of the South Beach Film Festival, SoBeFilmFest.com.
When are you
I don't know
give
if
the
you wanna-
dates? Oh, yeah, we should. We'll
Yeah, you want to do it on your phone? You just put
Go.
and the dates are May 15th through the 18th, 2025. This
Too
year.
late to enter?
No, it's up there. You can go to the website. We're on Film Freeway, and again, we have about 9 categories, and people are signing up like from all over the world. I'm getting people from Africa, from Europe, from Asia, from small little towns and different little countries. So it's really cool when we get these little emails, and really, again, we want the Miami folks to come in here and really tell Miami stories as well, right?
Right.
But it's open for Miami and international. So that's been the vision there, and it's been it's always been a dream of mine to do that, to give that opportunity. And he and I, for example, me and Jokes, we've entered a lot of things in different festivals, and we don't get chosen, you know.
Yeah, it happens to
You
the
know?
best of us.
So I think everyone's had that feeling, right? So what we want to eventually create here is an opportunity for everything to be showcased, you know, and really give it a chance to. And we have Andy Costas, a very well-known nightlife
Right.
interior decorator and artist and sculptor, who's created these sculptures called Bunji. I believe the name. If I got it wrong, I apologize. But it's like a spaceman, right? And we created it with a camera, and it's going to be the award. It's kind of like a Oscar, but on a little bit of steroids, you know. Pretty
Nice.
cool award that we're going to be giving out from a well-known artist.
Nice.
We're going to have a lot of parties. We're going to do tributes to some of the most iconic Miami films, like Scarface, Bad Boys, Miami Vice, and Birdcage. So that's going to be the fun thing about it, is we're going to be able to tell and tribute every year to these films from Miami, like Something About Mary. There's so many films from Miami.
Yeah, a lot of icons. Yeah.
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 And again, it's the #1 city, you know. And we use the flamingo, by the way, because it's got so much meaning. You know, flamingo means a few things, but one of it means potential. The symbolism of a flamingo. It's got a few things, but one is potential. And so that comes hand in hand with what we're doing with these filmmakers and the potential they have, the talent they have. And again, to be pioneering things,
Right.
first time in Miami Beach, first time with the digital content creation. I love pioneering things. That's one of my favorite things in life. And to give all these talented digital content creators that opportunity.
It's awesome.
And that's the future. And we just said it. We saw the numbers of the market, and we know everybody's on their phone all day. And how do we get them back to the theater? Get these same million following digital content creators or personalities or influencers, whatever you want to call
Give
them.
them an outlet other than a phone.
Put them on the screen. Those theaters will be packed.
No, it's a great idea. When you first told me about it, I was like, that's a win right there.
Well, they need their shine too, in a way, like not outside of just the, like you want to see how their stuff translates to the different experience. You know what I mean? Absolutely.
Yeah. And one of the things, and you'll appreciate this, it's, as I think you said earlier, one of the things I feel like I live a few different lives at the same time because I'm working on a feature and there'll be, 100 people deep. And then you're hanging out at one of the creators' house, a friend of mine, and it's just him or her on their phone doing this. And they've blocked out, they've done set design. They've done all the basics, right? And they're filming this. And like you just said, they're creating these, they put storyboards together. They're writing their thing out and they're putting it out there. And I'm just going, wow. I'm like, the difference is that a lot of the exposure they're getting is just that on their fan base. They're not, how do I say it? They're not taken credibly, even though they're doing the jobs of 100 people. I was going to say. And I'm like, and then so people judge them because those people that are on the set that have 100, you're one of 100 and you're like, yes, look at my shot. I'm like, yeah, but you had like 20 guys in grip. You had 4 of us sitting behind going, okay, put that there. And then here's this one guy. And I think like it's an interesting, you can look at it on both sides of this.
Absolutely.
Watch this. How many films did you watch this week?
I'm the worst to ask.
All right.
Because I'm working on stuff all the time, so I'm watching.
Yeah, me too.
Let's say you ask the random person. They're going to say one or two.
Right? I was going to say
maybe
two.
they watched a Netflix binge. How much digital content did you watch?
Please, dude. How many hours a day?
See that right there points that a lot of people they kind of like miss the point there. And again, things that are making you laugh. Now watch this. We just watched the Academy Awards. There's folks there on the red carpet that are digital content creators. And what are these large stars? I just saw Jamie Foxx run up to one of them and go, do that Jeff Goldblum. And he does his imitation of Jeff.
Yeah.
I mean, the stars themselves are watching.
Consuming them.
100%.
Yeah. So that's the future, and that's our lives. We're consumed by it, and it's daily all day. The moment we put it on the screen, that's going to create the magic that we're all looking for and the appreciation for these people's talents, right? We're going to recognize them, like Joke said, and that's going to create I think a wave of people wanting to be back in the theaters, being talked about, more dreams, right? More ability to see talent. You can see it now. You can see what they're able to do, and from friends of mine in LA, I'm hearing there's a lot of guys that started off in digital content creation and now they're in there.
Oh, I mean,
these networks and
you look at
studios.
all these ones like Mr. Beast and all the different ones, and you see guys who have gone from traditional media moving into digital. That's me. And you have a perfect example. And the reason is I was just talking to him about his cat the other day. My daughter's out in LA and they FaceTime me, and his name is Nathan Kessler. He's actually been on my podcast. He passed 1 billion views.
Wow.
But here's the reason I'm bringing him up is
It's more than films.
What's crazy is I was looking at his cat. He's FaceTiming. I was cooking, blah, blah, blah. I'm with my daughter, or she was there. And I was like, I need to see it. And I think he renamed it. The cat is named Asteroid Destroyer because the internet named his cat. But he's a brilliant guy. He used to sing with Bocelli, got out of it during COVID because you couldn't make any money. Now when I say he's a creator, no, he's literally looking to half a second trim. Like I sit and I watch him. He's like my younger brother. Right. And I'm just like, man, you are really like, it's so people think, oh, I'm just putting this little silly thing. He's doing a tattoo or he's got a cat or no.
Lighting, sound, special effects.
You don't get over 1 billion views by
and content, creating.
I mean, maybe you get it once by accident, but continue.
But
consistently,
and that's where I'm like, that's why what you're saying when you told me, I'm like, man, because I am with a lot of those creators, the top, and I'm going, wow, you guys really get it. And what's so cool is they know they want to level up because they started kind of, we'll call it homegrown with an iPhone or whatever.
Right.
Yeah.
And like, hey, Vic, can you tell me about that lighting and what's this? What do they mean by CRI or you know what I mean?
Well, because
the Rembrandt effect.
and there is something to be said about somebody who
wants to learn,
who not just wants to learn, but are so hungry to get their voice heard that they're going to pick up whatever medium they needs to be done to just accomplish that.
Right.
You know what I mean? And if it's like part of the journey, then hey, so be it. Some people kind of get stuck on it, but because that's where they master that domain and that's where they're good at that. And there's some that grow from it, and that's going to be, in a sense, those are the people who are like gonna be the stars of the future in a sense, because once we get to know them,
Oh yeah.
they become stars. That's how stars work.
Yeah.
And same thing happened with podcasts. You know,
Yeah.
took away from television and
Yeah.
radio and everything. Like
Yeah, absolutely.
it's another platform for people to see real people who do real things every day that won't be on a Jimmy, Kimmel or show
Or
like
Fallon
that.
or
Right, like Rogan did. He took that. I think
Right.
Jamie Kennedy gave him the idea or whatnot. It's the
I think it was
history.
Tom Green actually.
Tom Green.
That was
Tom
it.
Green. There we
Yeah.
go.
Yeah.
Thank
Yeah.
you. And
Tom Green's awesome.
Yeah.
and when I see that old clip, and he's sitting on the couch, and Tom Green's talking to him, and he started to do this from his house or whatever it was, I'm like, he saw the future. Like that's what it is today,
Right.
You know, and people are tapping into that. It's the era we're in, the decade in, the technology that we're in. Everybody's on their phone. Everybody's listening to podcasts. It's all a digital world right now. Not that it'll ever take away from film, ever. I don't think
Right.
so, because people still love the magic of film, right?
It's different. I think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's just another category, another medium, another added layer.
It's like
to it.
fantasy.
Yeah,
Versus
Absolutely.
this is us chopping it up.
yeah. But imagine you go to the theater now, and there's a whole digital component to it, right?
Right.
You go to Regal Theater, AMC, whatever it is, and you can go for an hour and see maybe 10 little 5 to 10 minute, 20
I think
minute.
it's brilliant curating.
I would watch it.
curating some of the best of the
Absolutely.
social.
Yeah.
People will be like, "Wow, I never even saw." Like, no, I think there's something to that.
And there's folks, if you look at some of the articles I've read, there's folks going, that should be a feature. And they'll see like a little short, and they're like, that should be a feature.
Well, that's how the film. It's
Absolutely, yeah.
And now it's even easier to see
Right.
the talent that's out there,
Yep.
which is amazing.
which you just made me think of something. Give everybody. How did you get started then? Because
And,
you just recently became the guild member too.
I did. I just became a DGA director.
Well, there you go.
Yeah.
So, how did that journey go? Because we're talking about people getting started.
For me, I'm okay. So when I was like 14, 15 years old, a buddy of mine was like, "Hey, I want to make like little movies with his camcorder," and there was this little button on that camcorder that was like the most miraculous thing. It was this button that if you didn't like what you filmed, you could hit that button and it'll take you back, and you could delete that last shot you did on tape. This is back in VHS tape days. So because of that, you were able to like say, "Oh, let's do it again," and you can get a take. So me and my friends, we made a bunch of like little films, and I was just acting in them. I wasn't even and helping like the creation process. But I was basically one of the cast of these people doing these little films, and then pre-YouTube days, we were getting that because that camcorder used to record on that fat little VHS tape, and then you put it inside the carrier tape.
Yeah, there's the high ones,
Yeah.
the VHCs,
Right, and you
all
just
the
pop it
different
into this thing, and then you could watch it on your regular VCR. So then we would film a bunch of stuff over a weekend or whatever it was, and then during the week, we'd literally pass that tape around school, hand to hand.
hand around a high 8 tape or a VHS.
There was a VHS. It was a VHS, but it was the
Oh, it was the cartridge.
It was a
that
carrier with the-
I know
with
what
the
you're
little
talking-
tape popped in there that
the
would
black
hold-
one, and you slide the thing.
right,
in
exactly, yeah. And you would have like this little carrier, and and that tape would get passed around by hand.
No.
From person to person. They would take it home, they watch it, and they bring it back the next day, and they pass it to the next person. And then we'd have to like try to keep track of it. Which
Like
was
who's
weird.
got who's got
Yeah, who's got it? We got to get the tape back. You know what I mean? And then we get the tape back, and then we'd add more stuff to it progressively. So throughout the year, the tape kept getting longer and longer and longer, and it would pass around sometimes to the same people again because I saw it to there, but I haven't seen the newest stuff you guys did.
Give me the
Yeah, and pass the tape, and literally it would pass around school, and like it was a super fun, amazing experience.
That's cool.
You know what I mean? And this is while I'm like a graffiti writer and like super in my hip hop world and like doing this also. So like it created this like kind of like buzz in our school, and everybody in our school knew us. Even people that we didn't really know, they were like, "Oh, I saw the thing you guys did. That was awesome." You know, and be like, "Oh, wow." So that feeling was amazing. And then all of us kind of split up because we kind of grew up a little bit. And then years later, I started really thinking about what it is that I wanted to do, because I was always an artist, and I could paint, I could sculpt, and I can, I made music, and I did a bunch of stuff like that. And I was playing around with music for a while, but I felt like music wasn't like my calling necessarily. I thought it was fun as an artist to like experience
Great
it and to
expression,
do it.
yeah.
Yeah, and it was like it was satisfying my artistic need to like make something, but I didn't feel like it was a career path. You know what I mean? Or at least I didn't like the career path in it. But what I always kept having was ideas for films. Kept having these ideas, or to write a book or whatever. The story ideas were just always coming to me, and that like really helped, like put that little thing in, you know. And I used to do like attempted to make little comic books when I was a kid or whatever. So I was always coming up with stories, but like that made me go, I want to write stories for films now. So then I said, you know what? Let me go to Miami-Dade and see if they have any like film courses and see what it's like. And then I jumped in the first class, and the way they had it set up back then, I don't know if it's like that now, but back then they were like, well, if you want to be in this film class or this, you know, whatever these film courses are, I just really wanted to study the writing part because I had learned from songwriting how to become a very disciplined writer. Well, I just want to take the film writing class. And they were like, oh, you got to take everything to be in the film writing class. You got to jump into the program. And then I jumped into the program, and I was a fish in water. Like, as soon as I got in there, it was kind of like, wow.
Yeah, you love all of it.
I was like, oh, wow. And not only that, but just like, there was like a very easy, it felt effortless to a certain extent. It was kind of like, oh, like, I kind of already know how to do this. And maybe it was because we did those little movies and I saw the whole experience. So it was just kind of like, oh, we're doing the same thing again. Just now, you know, learning the right way to do it. But it was just, I was a fish in water. I mean, literally, I learned to edit like in 2 days. You know what I mean? And that was on like a non-linear, like,
that's old.
old school, yeah, with the knobs.
Wheels.
Yeah, I learned how to edit. Like the fundamentals were already like in my mind already.
Mm-hmm.
All I needed to know was like, what's the in, what's the out, what's this? You know, like let's do this. So
JL cuts, all that shit.
yeah, exactly. So I mean, and then from there, everything just started kind of like falling into place.
That's awesome.
Yeah, and that was around the time actually I met Angelo.
Yeah.
Uh-oh.
He was
Yeah.
actually doing music videos too, and he was on
Yeah.
Dose TV show.
Yeah, that's later.
Yeah.
Well, after I get out of school, you know what I mean? Because while I was in school, I was like either cooking in restaurants or I was working at clubs.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And also I used to say I used to party 8 days a week because I'm from Miami. You know what I mean?
We all do.
Part of the blood.
Yeah. If you grew up in Miami, like and you had a lot of friends, you definitely partied 8 days a week.
Oh yeah.
And once you know certain people, like you're not paying to get into anywhere. You know what I mean? Like they'll be like, oh yeah, he's coming in. You know what I mean? So it was a great experience.
My story with him, because
Yeah.
we recently, and we literally sitting drinking and talking, and he literally, I won't mention the guy's name, but he looks at me and we're talking about, you know, because Miami's an interesting thing, and I've been down here 20 plus years and from New York, and I look at him and he mentions this guy's name, and I'm like, oh, you mean him? And he's like, him? And he gets him on the phone, and remember that? And
Instantly, yeah.
Instantly.
Oh, my
I'm
buddy
like,
Purple, yeah.
There you go,
He's a
Purple.
DJ now.
Yeah, so Purple. I'm like Purple, and he's like Purple. And like, so it's
calling it.
like I'm talking
That's
about
Miami.
partying 8 days a
Miami.
week. That's why. Yeah. Purple was running everything back in the day, and he is. Anyway, I digress, but I could. Yeah. So
then you know, shortly after that, after going to film school, I ended up getting a job working for Mundos, which was the channel that Telemundo had. That was like the MTV for.
okay, yeah, I thought
Urban.
I've heard it. Yeah, right.
Latin Urban.
Yeah,
Urban,
well, it
that's-
became Latin Urban. I helped make it Latin Urban because before it was just considered a youth channel
Right.
because it was actually originally it was called Gems,
Yeah.
Okay.
which was supposed to be a Latin women's channel. But then shortly they realized, wait a minute, all Latin television is women's television.
Telenovelas.
So yeah, it's like kind of like we're kind of putting the same thing on. Like we're not growing audience because like in American household the man controls the TV, and in a Latin household the woman controls the TV.
Yeah.
So it was kind of
heard
like
it here.
so it's kind of like one of those things where like, oh wait a minute, we're kind of idiots. Like we're trying to like copy American format by making a woman's channel, but like Latin TV already is kind of a woman's channel. So then they made it a youth channel, which was great. And man, serendipity and just being in the right place at the right time. I had a TV show. I took it over. It was already an existing TV show. I took it over, shot up to #1. That transitioned to like the flagship show of the network, which
Roof.
became The Roof, which was like the main 8 to 10 slot, which basically used the format that I created. I was literally the first person to play like reggaeton music videos in the United States. I mean, I already knew they existed in Puerto Rico, and
Right.
and like time was coming regardless. It wasn't like, but I definitely was. It's in the books. You know what I mean? I definitely was the guy who said, "Hey, we're gonna play this right here,"
Right.
like on daily.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It wasn't like a one-off, or it wasn't like a crossover song. No, I'm playing the most underground.
Yeah.
Like the real stuff that people like were like, "Oh wow, this is really bubbling in the streets." So that helped catapult that whole entire network. And it did really, really well for a long time. My only thing was that I saw, at least in that world, how conflicted they were. Because when you're dealing with youth is experimental, and it's also very like they're breaking boundaries. And one of the things I'm very proud to say is that channel became basically a bilingual channel, because I was showing a lot of content that was American and Latin side by side. So you needed to be bilingual.
That's awesome.
So, and they saw that it was working, because
Right.
I was hitting number one.
What year was this?
That was in 2002. It started in the show I started working on. Started at the end of 2001.
Okay.
And then by 2003, at the end of 2003, going into 2004, that's when the Roof TV show started. And then by 2005, I ended up leaving the show and starting to direct music videos, because I had, at that time, it was either become more of a TV executive or be on set. It was like, you gotta pick your path. And for me at that time, I was like, you know what? I want to pick my path. I want to be on set. I want to direct. You know what I mean? I don't want to just come up with ideas and see how it turns out. You know what I mean? I want to actually hands-on be making the project. So then I started directing music videos, and then that turned into I did a video with the guys I grew up with named Mayday. They did a song with CeeLo. I ended up doing the video for that. It popped off on YouTube before Google owned YouTube. It was like the #1 video on YouTube. And it got like 2 million views in 2 days, and it was on ABC News. And then that got me an agent. And then I started working with like Mike Jones and all the people that were popping off at that time, which is like 2006, 2007, that era. And, working with some of the top people in that world. And then around 2008, there was kind of like before the housing crisis.
Oh, yeah.
There was like a music crisis, because that's two things were happening at the same time. The DSLR came into the game.
Canon
5D?
5D
in the
and with
70?
the black magic, you could hack out the software. And,
the Magic Lantern. Yeah, I know. I had one of those.
Wow.
But the DSLR comes into the game, and the streaming of music is now starting to come into play. The Napster stuff got settled.
Right.
But so now the music industry is not spending as much money on videos as they were, and people were shooting with DSLRs, and it looked great, and it was comparable. So the music video market kind of crashed at that point. So then I had to make another transition, and I got into film to want to tell stories and to make movies. And I loved music videos, and I still love music videos. I think they're fun and they're awesome to create. It's like, but at that point I was like, all right, I need to like go more for my goal. And then I end up jumping on the editing team for that show Gabriel that was on SBS, which is also like another breakthrough kind of thing, because like The Roof was breakthrough in the sense that we brought reggaeton and Latin urban music and that field that wasn't really seen. We had our show.
Right.
After that, now 2008 comes around. Spanish television hadn't really done American style TV series. They did a mini series that was done completely American style, the 1 hour format, the completely American style, filmed, not fucking 5 episodes shot in a day kind of shit. Like literally, like they're taking their time to shoot it, shot really well. This guy Agustin directed it. He did a phenomenal job with it. And they made it was a 13 episode run. It was just that one mini series. And it was very breakthrough at the time. I mean, it won 22 Emmys when the show came out, including one for editing. And I was part of that editing team that like really brought that team to life. And, and I had a big influence on the way it was done, because like I had known how to run because then when I was working on The Roof, I was a creative director for that whole entire company that was doing stuff. So I knew how to run a creative room. So like I could also run editing rooms, and then we were doing that, won Emmys for that. And then from there on, I edited a movie called Magic City Memoirs that Andy Garcia executive produced. So like right after that Emmy, it was like the doors for editing opened up for me.
Right.
And that's where I got to really play in the feature world. And then and directing my own first feature film, and then
The rest is
the rest is
Eeny,
as
meeny,
it
miny,
goes.
moe, right?
So,
Eeny, meeny, miny, moe.
I'm going to throw something at you because I go, as probably you do. A lot of people come up and they ask about. I'm going to frame this the right way because I want you. I know I'm going to get your genuine answer here.
Mm-hmm.
In the world of pre-production, in the world of you're filming it, you're on set, and then the world of post-production, right? You essentially make a movie 3 different times.
Absolutely.
Now, since you're in the writing, and so you're in pre, you're a director, and you're an editor.
Absolutely.
Which is why I want your take, because I fall right in that same category.
Right.
And I think you only can get to a certain age of having experience and knowing editing and all these things.
Right.
When you look at a project, is it, give me your most important piece of when you look at a project, and through each one of them, because what I want to do is try and break it down for people who are watching, because I get a lot of people calling me up like, oh, I can't wait I'm going to be a cameraman, I'm going to be a DP, and I'm like, okay, you know what I mean? Or, and the unsung hero is the guy who's got great audio for me.
Yeah.
Right? I mean,
Absolutely,
I was
yeah.
talking about that last night. I'm like, because they asked me to review some movies. I'm like, if they don't have good audio, I will tolerate, because there's no good or bad. It's just good, or I won't watch it.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, and so I've seen so many people, they spend all their money on the scenes, or I'd love your take on what it takes from womb to tomb
Right.
of what you're looking for when you're in the edit room, when you're in the directing, when you're, you know what I
When
mean?
I'm writing, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, with writing, I guess it's all about the idea, and it's the creation point. That's where you get to play God a bit. You know what I mean? That's the first version of God you get to be, is in the creation point. I mean, that's fun. Sometimes a lot of it's in solitude, unless you're writing with partners or whatnot.
Right.
But a lot of times you're working in solitude in that
Or
situation.
AI.
Or AI, I guess, you know what I mean? If that's what you need to help you, hey.
Right.
But essentially, like, you're making an idea, and what's good about that is that it's kind of like when I have a bunch of different writing partners I work with, but I have one specific one I work with a lot. When we craft something on paper that we know is special, we call that the cheap heat, because all it took was just putting a little bit of time, plucking away the keys. You get the cheap heat. Like, hey, I just read this thing and it sounds amazing, and like I'm entertained just hearing you read it, you know what I mean? So that we know it works. So the good thing about that is it's a way to like work out what it is you really want to express, and that's like a very powerful thing. Now, when it comes to being on set, what's amazing is the collaboration. When you're on set, to collaborate with different people, you know what I mean? And it also means sometimes knowing when to stick to your guns.
Right.
Because there's sometimes like,
As the vision of the director.
absolutely,
Or
because a lot of times, collaboration is special and it's great, but sometimes you have to be the stubborn one and say, no, this is the vision, this is what we're doing, and kind of keep everyone the same, and people respect that. And not only that, but just like sometimes you have to, it's very easy to get all the voices. And the thing is that you'll learn really fast that the best way to like have everybody hate something is to try to make everybody happy.
I grew up and you probably wouldn't know this backstory, in New York as an actor, classically trained and then some. And what I tell everybody, and you may hear about all these directors who are angry and a-holes and all this, but here's why. I am the most collaborative guy in the beginning process, but when I've got 8 hours to shoot something,
absolutely,
and I need this performance out of Angelo, I need him to look just like that, and I want the light, and he's in, and it's just us right now, and it's here, and I have one guy back here going, don't you think that you know what happens? Angelo's eyes stop looking at me, and they start looking at this guy in the back of the thing. I just lost him. I just lost time. I got 50 people, and I lose my shit.
Absolutely.
And I tell everybody, so people, they want to bring their idea, and that's great, and I want it, but not. It's like being in the middle of
but you
a
don't do that on
surgery.
set. Yeah.
Like
You don't
being
do
in
that
the middle
on
of a
set.
surgery. I'm
Quiet
cutting
on set.
Yeah, and that's where.
Sure, you don't want to go in through the back of the head, like, dude.
Yeah, right, exactly. No, I've only been looking about this for about 4 years on this project, but that's great freaking idea. idea.
Right.
And so you get this reputation, but you're like, no, now this is surgery time.
Right,
I'm
right.
here. I'm filming it. I got this.
No, yeah, no. On set, definitely, like there has to be that one person that is the
And when people are just throwing shit in the
one
back,
voice. Yeah, one
I
voice.
see it and I lose my mind. Anyway,
Yeah.
sorry. That's because
Absolutely.
That's you mentioned. Go ahead. You were going to say something?
No. You go.
So you mentioned acting. That's how my career basically started, acting. So as a young
Can we
young
talk
boy,
about that on here?
Absolutely.
Which kind of
Oh,
acting
yeah.
was it? Because
So I started off at Coconut Grove Children's Theater.
Chippendales.
Corky Dozier was the acting coach. She's a brilliant acting coach here in South Florida. She's very well known. And I started in theater. And I would learn everybody's line. I would learn makeup. I would learn the stage, how to use the stage, how to get the audience reaction at a young age.
Right.
My brother, too, he was an actor as well. Brilliant actor, my brother. And from there, we went to Expressive Arts Center with Jim McNamara, who's an amazing, brilliant acting coach as well. I had a really good lineage of good acting coaches. There I went to North Center for the Fine Arts in Norland. It was at a high school here. There was a North and a South. South, I think it was at
Southwood?
Southwood, yeah. Southridge or South Miami, one of those, right?
Oh, South Miami. Yeah,
Yeah.
they have one too. Or
And
New
then
World.
the path there was to New World, right? And then back in my days was Payback. Payback was like the New World School of the Arts.
Okay.
I got to that point. All around this time of my acting, I'm still doing the nightlife, the events, all that. I started my first company at 19 in nightlife events and all that. But I always had a passion for acting. And where I got the idea of filmmaking was I was kind of boxed into what you see happens to a lot of actors where they look a certain way and then that's the look.
Yeah,
right?
the
Typecast, yeah.
Right. Type. So
Rocky,
and I didn't have
who's broke out of it now.
and I didn't have the life experiences. For me, an actor has to have these experiences. It's my belief, right? For an actor to be really genuine, when you see great performances, it's because they've lived it. Somehow they were able to tap into that, right? So I didn't have that experience. I was just good-looking kid, and I would get all these commercials. And I got my first break. I'm in LA. Is 1991, and I'm auditioning for Saved by the Bell.
Oh my God.
Melrose Place, 90210. I got pretty far with Saved by the Bell. I was like one or two. I guess the ones that were choosing.
I don't see him as Screech.
No. It was the blonde guy. In fact, they dyed his hair. He just did an interview recently with Drew Barrymore where he said they dyed my hair blonde. They wanted a blonde kid, and there was another blonde kid. And I wonder if he was mentioning me because I had blonde hair.
That's it.
And I was right there, yeah. And right around that point, I'm in Miami-Dade, just like in Miami-Dade College. I'm in the North Campus. That's where they had
The film program.
yeah, and Massimo was there with you, right?
Yeah,
he was
Massimo's
one of my doormen.
Yeah.
And I'm there, and I start taking classes with Richard Pryor, not the comedian, but the acting coach there. He was a brilliant actor. I did Soul Your Story, Brigadoon. I started doing these theatrical. I was really good. I would memorize everybody's lines, and I had a thing where I was very shy in person. But you put me on a stage and I just perform. And I think we've seen that with the podcast.
Yeah.
Put me on and I just go off. But I had a great lineage of acting coaches and a really good supportive from my parents. They were very creative. They were very into the arts. And I started looking at some footage of my parents, all our trips. And I'm like, why aren't I there? I was there. Why aren't I there? And my dad says, you're holding the camera. And my parents had that big Panasonic with the little arm, and you put it over your shoulder, and we'd be in New York.
Those were the full-size VHS.
Yeah, and it had a little backpack.
Yeah, the full-size.
I have one.
I still have.
I have some
That's
storage.
my original.
I've been collecting those old relics.
Yeah.
And my dad says, and my kids are there, and I remember my kids are watching. They're like, Dad, where are you? And I'm like, yeah, where am I, Dad? And I said to my dad, he says, you're the one holding the camera. And I'm trying to turn the vacation trip into a film.
A vlog.
At a young boy. I'm like
original
12,
vlogger.
Yeah. I'm like 12, 15. By the time I'm 19, I'm loving it. I get my first shot around that time with a brilliant director named Randa Haynes, who did a film called The Wrestling Ernest Hemingway. And it's Robert Duvall, Shirley MacLaine,
Oh, wow.
Richard Harris, Sandra Bullock. This is my first film.
What a cast.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
She's the waitress in the diner. I'm the busboy in the diner. And here I am. That's my first intro into Hollywood right there.
Wow.
And I'm going, wow. And I get the part because when they do the casting, they do it on set. And when I get there, there's 3 guys, me and 2 other guys, and they're dressed just like me. And I'm going, and I don't know how I had this, but I always had the thing of pay attention, right? And I see Randa Haynes behind the camera. And she's just looking at us. And I'm looking at the two kids are talking. And I said, you know what? I'm going to go behind the counter. I'm going to act like I'm working at this diner. So I start working like if I'm at the diner. The kids are like laughing at me, the two boys. And I look and I see she's behind the camera. She's looking right at us. And I just keep going. I put the little hat on, the little
Paper
hat,
hat.
and and I grab the little towel and I throw it over, and I'm cleaning up, and the kids are still laughing at me. And I start asking, "You want a drink? You want a coffee? You want something?" And I'm just going. And she comes. She gets rid of the two boys. She goes, "Stay right here." And I go, "Oh man, I got in trouble." I got in trouble. So I'm like nervous. I'm young, and she comes back. I don't see the two boys. She goes, "Son, you got the part. Go talk to." It was Ellen Jacoby. She was the casting director.
I know Ellen. Actually, Ellen's coming on here. Yeah. I can't wait to get Ellen. I've known Ellen I love Ellen.
And she goes, "Kid, you got the part." And I'll never forget. I had just seen The Vanishing, which is Sutherland, Kiefer Sutherland, and Sandra Bullock. She goes vanishing. She gets lost in the gas station. And her name is Diane. My first intro into Hollywood actors. When they have these chairs. And it has her name, and I never looked at it. And I'm calling her Diane. At one point, Sandra looks at me, and she goes, "Come here." She goes, "Come here."
Oh, no.
And I'm like, hey, how are you, Diane? How are you? She goes, "My name's not Diane. My name is Sandra. See that? See the chair? Sandra." And I'm like, oh! That's my intro into, Hollywood. Whereas I'm in the line, they got these buffets. They got shark. They got everything on this. On these. I see Robert. And I'm thinking, I'm going to call him Bob. He looks at me and goes, "Son, it's Robert."
It's Robert. You're like, damn, I'm two for two.
I'm like 2 for 2 here. So that was my intro to that. And then when my parents showed me the whole thing about the camera, I started thinking filmmaking. And I started making my own films in my head. I came up with 5 films. I was sharing with my friends. My friends were like, wow.
That's awesome.
These would be great films. And that kind of got lost with the nightlife. I got married really young, and I started you got to pay bills.
Yeah.
I got lost there, but somewhere along the line, me and him would always connect, and a couple other friends in common, like Abdel and others. And I had a lot of friends that were well-known actors already. By that time, they were huge Hollywood actors. They would always say to me, "Yay, if you don't do the acting, at least do filmmaking, because now you have all this drama in your life. You're getting married, you're paying bills. That's where you can draw some characters from." One of them was Stephen Bauer, Manolo, who plays Manolo in Scarface. He plays Avi and Ray Donovan, Don Eladio in Better Call Saul and Breaking Bad, and he's Joe Pena and Kipacio. He's created 5 iconic characters. He's doing really great. And he was always there, and he would always say, You're good. Do it. Then I got into the part of kind of managing parts of Hollywood and actors and things like that. And then people in Hollywood would be like, "You should be in Hollywood. You should be in Hollywood." But I always had a thing where I always wanted to be in Miami, do it for Miami and from Miami. And the only other person that I knew that was like that was Jokes. Yeah. And that's how around COVID, and I had already been working on this project called Nightlife Empire.
Right.
And me and Jokes get together around COVID, and I'm like, "Hey, man, let's do this."
Yeah.
Right.
And
That's
we start
awesome.
texting everybody, all the leaders of Miami, and they're all responding. Yeah.
Well,
yeah,
we me and him, at least 10, 15 years ago, I don't know.
Talked about it, yeah.
Yeah, we mentioned the whole, hey, there's nothing
About Miami.
about Miami that nobody's done any documentaries about
sense. Yeah.
about
the
nightlife.
first idea was a feature,
Right.
which was written.
Right.
And
Right. We were exactly. Yeah.
and we said, it was going to be a story kind of based off my character in that world, but with fictitious names, and kind of add a little bit
Right.
more to it and drawing from everybody's story.
See, actually, I gotten right after I did my first feature, because it takes place, some of it in Miami Beach, because it's about a tow truck driver
Yep.
in South Florida that, whatever.
Eeny, meeny, mo.
Yeah, eeny, meeny, miny, mo.
Miny, mo.
But they call it EM3 or whatever. You can find it both ways, and it's on all the platforms, blah, blah, blah.
Which is another thing about Jokes, by the way, with his filmmaking. I'm sorry for interrupting.
Yeah, that's all good.
He's found an ability to, I'll never forget, there's 2 things. One is he found distribution for everything.
That's
Right, which is-
that's the game.
And monetizing, right?
If you can't get
the other
your
part
product
was he would say to me, exactly, because I kept fighting the thing about leaving Miami, and he's like, I already did all the legwork.
right.
They're gonna put you here, they're gonna stack it up, He's like, let's just do it.
Right.
And I was like with it. I was like, let's just do it.
Right.
However, whichever way, let's just do it and go ahead. Those were things that kind of motivated us to the same mindset.
Yeah, right after I did that feature, I got an assignment to write a pilot for a TV show about a bunch of promoters. And I wrote the pilot, whatever, and it was an assignment, it was a job. I wrote it, passed it along or whatever. And I remember I came to Angelo, and at that time when I was writing it, I don't know if I had told him or not that I was doing it, but I would ask him like questions like, hey, has this ever happened to you? Does this sound real? You know what I mean? And he would give me advice. I mean, there was like now I think about it, but like it was like in passing conversations kind of stuff. It was just, like little things that you're making conversation. You're like, hey, is that realistic? And he would tell me, if this person was that, like he would give me his take on it. So then, that would always stay in mind. And then we were talking about making, a fictionalized piece kind of based on some real life stuff. But eventually at one point we were like, but nobody really knows the history. So like, we can make a movie about it, but in a way that's like completely fictionalized. Like the real stories,
Documentary.
like aren't told.
Right.
You know what I mean? And like, and it's a little easier, I think, once you like kind of create the world and people understand what that world is like, to go, okay, now we can create fictional offshoots of that if need be. Yeah. You know what I mean? If it's deserving, if people want to see that, if there's a need, if there's a desire for it.
Hey, we were talking when we first opened about Miami being one of the hottest cities in the world, if
Absolutely.
not. And now people are going to want to know the history. Like you said, it was a small city.
Yeah.
If you think about it, you've had New York and LA and all these other, they've been around for a long time.
Yeah.
Miami is a very young city, and you can see the incredible growth that's going on here.
What Studio 54 was in the 80s for New York, the 90s was South Beach.
100%.
One of our partners involved in a lot of the projects between the three of us, Bobby Radical, who created and documented and had the vision to grab the making of South Beach, which is his old archive footage of those days, which is going to become a new documentary now that we'll all work on. Kind of created that open door to say, hey, look at how many people want to know about this, right? Mm-hmm. When we come up with ours, we have a mutual friend in common, one of the top casting directors, Ed Aronis. He's like, why don't you guys get together? So we all met up. This is about 5 years ago, or 6 now. And we were trying to figure out the synergy there, right? And little by little, me and him just kept plugging away. We put our heart, body, soul, sweat, and tears, everything, our pennies, everything into this project. And we just kept moving. And the doors kept opening. When me and Bobby kind of connected, me, Jokes, and Bobby, we found a way to put it all together, and now we have and we were already working with Michael Gardner on Headliner, which is the top promoter of Live on Sunday that most people know. It's on every hip-hop song.
Yeah, they've been documenting that for like 13 years, 14 years already.
So we created a universe now. So now we have not only the podcast, not only the urban, not only the story, the untold story, the nightlife capital of the world, the making of South Beach, all the people that are involved in the history for the last 35, 40 years. We have the page on Facebook, right? The private page. So we have right now a lock pretty much on that universe of Miami, the number one city in the world, and all the stories. And outside stories, like biographical stories. He's working on one with the urban culture of Boss, Convertible Bert, Bo Diddley, all these different guys that are well-known personalities. We have all these top guys from the 80s who are phenomenal or well-known for different things. Let's say, for example, like the drug world,
right?
The Cocaine Cowboys
right.
world.
Well, you have Billy Corbin on your thing.
And Nelson Aguilar.
Yeah.
But the actual real guys that, they don't want to work with nobody else. They want to work with us.
Right.
And the stories keep coming to us from all angles of all people that want to be involved. And I think, I don't know if you want to show a little bit of it there or on the screen. However, you might have our cut there, right? Our teaser
of what?
Of Nightlife Empire.
Oh yeah.
And I think, Vic, the greatest thing about it is with our passion for film, all the Jokes. Jokes is an accomplished, award-winning filmmaker. I mean, I remember one time we had what was a film? Toyed, about 18 or something, 20 something awards in different festivals.
30 something.
30 something. We have the actual actors in Hollywood who are our friends and want to be part of this, right? We have the well-known personalities in Miami, the celebrities, the actual hoteliers, festival owners, operators, personalities, all the people, and in all cultures, all backgrounds, all lifestyles. And we have now an opportunity, and we've been graced to be stewards of it and responsible for it because we take it very serious, all of us, and we're very passionate about it, to tell those stories. And like you're seeing in this teaser, or sizzle, right?
It's like a sizzle promo.
Yeah. It's, how Miami became the nightlife capital of the world. People come here by the millions every year. They come back by the
every
millions.
day.
Every day.
Yeah, I mean, it's
this
crazy.
is the number one, right? Like I said, the 80s was Studio 54, the 90s was South Beach, and it's still Miami.
Yeah, it's still locked down here.
Right? And South Beach is coming back.
Yeah, it's growing.
And it really
Without a
it
doubt.
was kind of like dampened for a while there because of certain festivals and holidays that would get really crime, and just the wrong crowd.
Yeah.
But they've cleaned it up. We've been working a lot and meeting a lot with the city and for the festival, the South Beach Film Festival, and the way they've cleaned up the city. I walk there during the day and at night, and it's just beautiful crowds all over South Beach. And I'm going, wow, it's coming back, and we now have the opportunity to tell these stories from all these persons, and it's not just the story of one person.
Right.
It's the story of all the people who contributed to it from all industries, right? Even the folks right here and other friends that we have that we know. And that's the greatest thing that I think out of all our journeys and all the different visions and passions that we have, even for now and for the future and projects that we're working on, is the fact that we have this ability to.
So a lot of great stuff's coming, man.
Yeah.
I feel it. I
Yeah.
just feel it. Same thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, and the thing about it is that, I think people, when they go out in Miami, they almost want that story,
Sold.
that story experience. There's always a story. Like,
Right.
It's a movie.
Like even when you go out of town, people are like, oh, I went to Miami. Oh, I got to tell you the story about what happened to me when I was in Miami.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So it's like, it's almost like an infinite inkwell of stuff. You know what I mean? Because like everybody has their perspective. I could tell you about one party, and there's 50 stories in that one party.
Oh, yeah.
So it's kind of interesting. It's an interesting world, and also, it's like it's a world that I come from. Like I said, back in the days, I used to party 8 days a week.
Yeah.
So like to me, it's like kind of like there's a whole life there, and people want to know about that, and also like there's some things that are just gone.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And as far as like eras and the time period, and there's a magic from those certain moments. And, everybody has their era in a sense, like
Right.
there's certain people that grew up in a certain time. That was when they're prime, and that's when they used to go out a lot. And that was when they'll say, that's when this place was the best in the world.
Yeah, we get that
when
all
I
the
used
time
to go
with the
there.
kids.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, they fight. They fight about when
Right.
was the time.
Yeah.
When was
or
the
what was the year.
right.
But you know what's funny about film? You look at every film we've ever looked at, and there's one part of every film, if they included, right, stands out. And it's always that nightlife aspect in it, whether it's Boogie Nights, where the film Limitless, he takes off for a few days and he parties.
Right.
There's so many films that when you look at them, Scarface,
The Hangover was built.
Hangover.
Comedy was built on partying.
you see that and you're like, wow.
Yeah.
Like that stands out. That was the part that caught me when I was watching the movie. Yeah, I like this character. Yeah, I like this romance. But wow, when they showed that I can relate to that.
Yeah.
I lived that. I want that. I want to be there,
That's cool.
And that's the interesting part about nightlife, that it brings all these walks of life, all these people, and there's so many stories taking place.
Going out to have a
same
good time. Just going out to have fun.
Yeah.
Release. It's not,
And then culturally, just as people, the way we party
In Miami.
says a lot about who we are. You know what I mean? So that's what's kind of interesting, and then also how it evolves, how it changed. Like when we, I discovered so many things, working on this project. You know what I mean? So many different things that were just like little details that you're like, oh, that's the
right.
reason.
Yeah.
Oh, it's just like connects these dots that you're like, oh, I didn't know, like I didn't know like pre-Versace, like VIP wasn't a cool thing in Miami. It was kind of like the opposite.
Yeah.
It was like more like everybody wanted to be in Miami because you were going to be on the dance floor with Madonna.
Yeah.
And then
Right.
post Versace, then everything kind of changed. It was kind of like, oh, and then even though VIP was around,
Right.
but it was like a New York thing or it was a Vegas thing. You know what I mean? It wasn't a Miami thing. Miami, the thing was you're partying next to stars. You're having a beer with Mickey Rourke, and it's like, and Mickey Rourke is so cool. He's down to earth, and Sylvester Stallone is sitting right next to you at the bar, and the doorman doesn't even know who the famous people are.
Right.
He's this European guy, and he just cares what shirt you're wearing.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And he's gonna be like, no, you're not getting in.
Right. Right.
I know, because I've helped celebrities get into doors
Yeah.
because they were like wearing shorts or something. You know
You're
what I
like
mean?
you get, but I'm a celebrity. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
doing the history, we go back in time, and you see Frank Sinatra, you see Elvis, you see all these
Frank
personalities,
Sinatra had a place right over in right on North Bay Village.
and you think, wow, this has been going on, and it was always here, right? It existed everywhere else, right? But
Yep.
here, Miami always had something special, and the city is special. And
There's an
they call it-
environment. You
it's a
can't-
magic
Absolutely.
city, right?
I mean,
Magic city.
I grew up in New York. It was funny. Bobby and I were talking about New York in the '80s. Some of these crazy clubs we were laughing last
Absolutely.
night, and then we're talking about here. And it's like I feel like I've been blessed because I've been somehow in the different moves and different spots, and now I'm in Wynwood. I would just and I just feel the energy. It's like you feel there's a certain time and a
yeah.
place and where stuff's going on, and I'm like,
Last night I'm walking through downtown by myself, and I just said I want to walk my city. So I just take off from a hotel I was at in downtown on Biscayne. I walked all the way over the bridge into Brickell, and it was like a 30-minute walk.
Yeah.
And I stopped at different little bars, and I ran into friends just walking through the street. And I was just looking at the city. I'm going, this city is so magical.
It is.
And you could feel the energy, and you could feel the vibrant, and you could feel the stories, and you're just like, wow, you know? And the funny thing is, we oftentimes throughout life and history, we think about New York or L.A. or things like that or Vegas, but Miami is really special, man.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
It really is. And we're from here. We're born here. We live here. And again, we're blessed. And again, I just, not to repeat, but, you know, I'm so thankful that we have the opportunity to tell these stories in so many ways, from the podcast, from the docuseries, the documentaries, you know, the film festival, et cetera, and different stories that we're going to come up with. And we have come up with, and Jokes have, I have, we all have. Miami's a cool thing, man.
I love it. I love it. And you know what? Since we're running, so we've gone for a minute. What I want to do is get you back and really dissect my question I asked about the post, pre,
right.
Because
Yeah,
I
we
want to
didn't
talk
get to
about the
finish,
editing and all that. And
Post.
film. I cut you off.
Yeah.
The
No, it's all
post-
good.
And then we can wrap it up, and then we'll talk about I want to get what you guys are doing now, and then
Well, we did that.
yeah, well, I know the festival and the
Right.
ones coming up, and I think April. I believe it starts April 6th, 3rd.
The what, Miami Film Festival?
Yeah.
Yeah. It starts like in the first days of April.
First,
yeah.
okay, so for those,
But it runs for like almost 2 weeks. So
yeah,
Yeah.
so people will be able to catch some of that. So,
absolutely.
all right, give everybody the advice on you know, the pre filming and post. Come on.
Well, we were in actual production. So in production, to me, like there's two things. It's what the collaboration with your crew and your people, but also like for me, that's the moment for the stars. That's the moment for your actors, your talent.
Get great talent.
You got to get great talent, and you want to create the platform for them to like elevate themselves as much as humanly possible to really get the best out of them. And that to me is the most important thing there. It's like, how do I squeeze the most amount of their talent out so that in that little moment where we're trying to harness the power of lightning inside of a bottle for whatever amount of days you're trying to hold it, how to keep them in a place where they don't feel at all like they're running out of time, or they're, you know, essentially unshackle them.
Right. It's true.
And harness their power while they're unshackled.
I've seen directors yelling at people, and that's not the time. You know, when
Right.
you're working with like you were talking, you go on that set.
Yeah.
We all know what that performance is like, and people want to do it clinically by the numbers.
No.
Right. Like,
I mean, I personally like, you know, I mean, not that we always get the opportunity to do so, but when I can, I personally like to rehearse everything, at least for a day or two, with as much of my cast as possible.
That's great.
And work out all the little details so that when we're on set, we're just looking for happy accidents. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? We're maybe finding a couple, but let's make the discoveries and the breakthroughs in the rehearsal process.
Right.
So that way you can feel completely unshackled and not have to worry about, well, I got to get this right that one time. Like, no. In the rehearsal room, we could do it 1,000 times. I don't care. Like, the clock's not ticking. I don't have 17 guys making $100 an hour.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
you know what I mean? Like, let's do it now. And then also, like, you know, the actors love it because they get to, like, well, you know, I had this idea. I wanted to try something, but, you know, like, I don't know if that's going to work. Well, let's see it. There's no bad ideas here.
It's funny.
At
I
that
love
point.
that. I'll give you one of my favorite, and then because I keep cutting you off, but
it's okay.
you're making me think. One of my favorite things I've done, and I picked this up years ago in New York, and was you finish, you know, you got it. You and as the director, we know we got it in the can, and you stop and you look and you're like, okay, I'm only 20 minutes behind. Then you stop, and you go, this is your take. I don't care what you give me.
Right.
Take 2 seconds, reset, and we shoot it. And sometimes you get, because they've
Super
rehearsed it. They've rehearsed it. And then they're just like, all the pressure's off because they know you got one in the can.
Absolutely.
And I'm like, now this takes for you. I don't care what you give me.
Right.
You two play it all, you whatever.
Right.
And it's so you're right.
Yeah.
By
Yeah.
giving that actor that
Freedom.
so whether they did it before or
Yeah.
that last minute, I think it's, anyway.
Yeah, and in that process, it creates kind of like a shorthand in a sense where it's kind of like, oh, you know, because now the way I'm directing on set versus oh, you know what? I need this. You go, hey, remember that thing that you did when you put that?
Right.
And they go, oh, yeah.
You like that? Oh, you like that?
Yeah. Okay. I got it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It saves time. It saves a lot of time.
Exactly.
So,
Interruptions.
and I would suggest to do that. You know what I mean? And if I can, because sometimes it's hard because there's actors coming in from out of town. And,
Right.
And as a producer, I also understand that. They're like, oh, I got to, because you do got to pay for them to be in rehearsal. But like I said, just a way cheaper cost.
I agree.
Get
a better quality.
Right. And then when it comes to post,
because as an editor, this is what I wanted to hear. I built you up for this question.
yeah, editing is so it's magical, and it's like almost like the most rewarding in a sense, because it's like what finalizes everything. It's like the last writing in a
But it went
sense.
from hundreds of people to one.
So one or two, you know what I
Right.
mean? Or
Sitting at-
it's actually depending if I'm editing or if I'm
Right.
directing the edit. And sometimes I'm doing both at the same time.
Right.
But to me, editing also is more about like you got to learn how to take the technical and get the technical out of your way and figure out how the feeling of it works
That's my
the most.
yeah,
Because I'll and this has happened to me countless of times. I'm editing a scene, shit don't match right. It don't like
the energy, the tempo, the
no, just something doesn't from just a technical side.
Oh.
The spoon was here, and the spoon is there.
continuity stuff.
Continuity and shit like
Yeah,
that.
yeah.
Which when you're on a technical side of it, you're like, bro, I gotta make that shit match.
I gotta fix
You know what I mean?
that.
I gotta make that shit match. But sometimes, fuck it.
It's so true.
Because the feeling is there. I don't care. Find the spoon that's on the. I don't give a fuck.
Right.
You know what I mean? Because it feels right, and you know it, and usually the way you test is you show somebody and they'll be like, "That was amazing,"
Yeah, they didn't see the spoon.
and they don't care.
We saw the spoon. Yeah,
We saw the spoon because we're looking over. Yeah,
yeah.
but if you don't point it out, if you're not, did you see the spoon? They're like, now they look at, oh yeah, the spoon's wrong. What's going on?
Yeah.
It's like sometimes fuck it.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, like to me, the edit is the most when it becomes for the audience. You know what I mean? Like in a way, you as the creator have to, at least in the final edit, you have to go, this isn't for me anymore. Like in production, still it is. You know what I mean? Even in the writing. But I think when you're in post, at least the last cut, maybe not the first cut. First cut, you should make it for yourself. But that last cut, right before it's going to go out there, that's not for you anymore. That's for the audience.
It's really funny you say that. I was talking to somebody the other day about this because being a chef, I'll cook a meal and I know the flavors I like. So sometimes when I'm serving a bunch of friends, I'll cook it to like a taste, but and then I'll be like, oh, I want to really lean in on the anchovies. And most people are like, oh,
Right.
So I love that you say that.
Yeah, I was a cook. I'm a cook too, so I get it.
You
Yeah.
get what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It's like sometimes sometimes I feel like that's why with me, the editing, it's like I find people that are very technically good. They may be good at cutting, but they lose. It becomes sterile. It doesn't have a feeling anymore. You want to hold on that shot, and then people are like, yeah, but you got to cut it shorter. And I'm like, and then I argue because I'm like, yeah, because now flipping back to the digital world where every cut has to be, doom scrolling and milliseconds. But then speaking of doom scrolling, then you watch the movie Dune,
Right.
and it's like the longest shot.
It's like a 3-hour movie.
And people are loving it. So it's like, I always tell people, you can't go by just, how fast the cut is.
there's no rules essentially.
No.
The only rule is don't be boring. That's the only rule that matters. That's the only rule that matters.
Yeah.
Because if not, you're not making entertainment anymore.
Yeah. And then people are like, okay,
If you're making entertainment, the key number one rule is don't be boring.
God, I think that's a way to close this podcast out.
Yeah.
Don't be boring.
I think that's the other part that happens to my mind when it comes to filmmaking is the marketing side.
Oh, well, that's,
I'm always thinking about that from
How do you
beginning
sell that
all the way through.
distribution.
And even when the critical filmmaking parts, I'll even be like, for example, on one of the project we're working on, I'll be, hey, but I think that we should include this because I think this stands out for this. And it's always coming from that back end. I think when you have a team that all have a different mindset of a particular solid, structured background of, let's say, marketing, editing, storytelling, creative, you're going to have a lot of good success because in the end, you got to sell it, right?
That's people don't watch it.
So marketing is part of that, and I've seen that a lot with a lot of films that you see, and you're like, why didn't they make it out? Like Shawshank Redemption.
Yeah.
Right.
Brilliant film, but they just weren't good at marketing. And there's a lot. Then you see some cheesy movie. They were really good at marketing, and they got out there, and they did really well. So marketing is part of that structure of filming.
Because marketing essentially is the first time someone's going to see something.
Exactly.
And you want to make a good impression. You don't want people to see like, I don't know if I want to. There's been plenty of movies that were marketed wrong that I've seen the trailers for, and I'm like, I don't know if I want to see that.
Yeah.
Right.
But then I happened to see the movie for whatever reason. Either somebody else wanted to see it or whatever, and I see it, and I'm like, wait a minute, that wasn't That wasn't what I was sold.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
You know what
exactly.
I mean? So there's an art to that. That's like,
That's part of it.
Absolutely,
Part of that magic,
Wow, guys. I think we covered
a lot. Yeah.
We've been talking. And the scary part is I had probably like 10 more questions, but I'll save those for podcast part 2.
Yeah,
oh,
do
no,
part
man.
2.
Hey.
And we didn't have a drink.
No. There will be another podcast. We'll do it after the festival so we can
Right.
talk about some of the
Yeah.
things. But no, hey, Jokes, Angelo, guys, I appreciate you immensely.
Absolutely.
Hey, guys, thank you so
Love you,
making
man.
them. Hey, this is what it's about. This is the fun. This is
yeah.
this is why I'm like, you can't catch this over Zoom. You got to hang. You got to
Absolutely, yeah.
Let
So
loose.
thank you guys, and I hope everybody watched, learned, got to the end, and come to the festival. Check out all this stuff. We'll put some links below. I see they're right there. Oh, it just was there. Nightlife Empire. So we'll
That's coming
there it is.
soon, yeah,
They're
that's-
coming soon. There's a lot of cool stuff, and don't hesitate to put some questions below.
Absolutely.
Guys, I think you want to call it. That's a wrap. Right?
That's a wrap.
That's
That's
a wrap.
a wrap.
That's a wrap, guys.